devices to help keep drugs safe, lock boxes and various things that are pretty effective in locking up your meds at home. But I think, the education thing is so important that our community really understands what a problem it is, because it's just like homelessness. We just started a homeless strategies work group to start working on that side of things out in our community. And we have to be able to get to the point where we don't just think something's a blight or bad. We have to look at it like it's a crisis and it's something that needs action. And it's not just something that we turn a blind eye to and say, oh, that's bad, I can't look at that. We have to be able to, leaders in the community and our community itself has to be able to stand up and find solutions and work together to be able to solve this. Otherwise, we're just going to be spinning our wheels.
My name is Jerry O'Kane. I'm 134 Windward Drive. I'm a retired educator. I have an idea for the people that spoke tonight. I did mention it to a couple of them. We have a young woman that works for us, cleans our house every week. She's a 22-year-old. She's graduating in environmental sciences from West Washington. I asked her this question. I said, Kat, her real name is Catherine. I said, Kat, do you have a job? She said, no. So here's some students over there that I would get, I would get together and call the department chairman over there, environmental science or whatever you call it at West Washington. I would say to this department chairman, look, can you arrange for a seminar? We'll come over there and give it some afternoon during the week or whatever, and they could have some advertisement. In other words, here's a kid that's 22-year-old. Her father she doesn't talk to her father, divorced. She has her brother in the Marine Corps. She has another sister and so forth. No job. And I said, I wanted her to come tonight, but she couldn't make it. But in other words, I liked everything you guys say because I follow the political thing. I watch Channel 47 so every day for hours. So I'm no expert, but believe me, being 90 years old, I've seen FDR, I've been through the whole thing. My mother was a Democratic, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, that's my suggestion. I do it as soon as possible because here she's graduating like 1 month from now. If I were one of you, I'd get on the phone tomorrow, call over West Washington, who's the department chairman, environmental science. I said, look, we'd like to put a seminar on for the students and a little advertisement and go there next week, 2 weeks from now, whatever. Because think about it, a 22-year-old girl after a senior graduating and no job. Now, I asked her about things like environmental science, yes, but you guys could open some eyes. First of all, you're not going to offer a job, but I said, well, try to get a job as an intern somewhere, like whatever. And maybe you know somebody. Maybe you could. I said, start a little club there at the school, West Washington. Just call it environmental whatever, and get your fellow students together. Because I said, look at what Apple did. He started in a garage. Look at what Microsoft did, starting in a garage. So get a few of you people together, and that's what you should do. Say, look at kids, or well, whatever they are, start a little group, and you could go all through the United States 3 years from now. Just look what Facebook did and so forth. So that's my suggestion to you, because they are all potential voters, right? And they're sitting over there. They would love to hear what you say, because you're going to get the kids from not necessarily just the ones that are graduating, the ones that are in a junior or a freshman or whatever, studying environmental sciences. I'm not sure what they call the subject, but that's her major. So if I was her, I would I wish she could have come tonight to hear what you say about the oil, the gas industry, and all this crap and believe me, I have a lot of feelings about our president, which are not very good. But anyway, he appointed some guy that's the head of whatever you call it, environmental sciences, which is, I can't think of his name right now, but some turkey that's trying to get rid of environmental sciences in the United States. He doesn't want clean air, doesn't want clean water, doesn't want greenhouse, doesn't care about global warming. So this is what I'm saying. Do it. And I think you might get a group of kids, because you're talking to us, a few people here, but think of the impact. They all have brothers, sisters, etc. And some of them are graduating, but ask the department chairman, listen, they'd like to get together with the whole group. And they've got auditoriums, whatever, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock someday, and do it as soon as possible. And that's my suggestion. I've got a card in my pocket with my phone number. I don't know her number off the top of my head. You want to call me? I'll give you a card. Call her tomorrow, and she will tell you who the department chairman is. Start her from her. And she's interested. I said, look, get into political life, do something. So that's what we've been talking about over Channel 47 for a long time. Get the young people involved. We're all older, and I certainly am twice as old as a lot of you people here. But I'll give you my card and with her phone number, and do that, because think about it. 22-year-old studying for 4 years over here at West Washington, no job.
It's a great suggestion, and I'll just make a really quick comment. One of the clear strengths that we know about Whatcom County is education. And I'm biased because my wife is a teacher in the Bellingham School District, but we have a great university. We've got a tribal college, we've got a technical college, and a community college. It's not only a huge part of our job base of people working in that sector, but it's a huge potential for our capacity here locally. So it's a great suggestion. And my other follow-up is we're currently at less than 10% of turnout for vote. So voting has been going on for a week, and so encourage your friends, encourage those college students that you know, and encourage everybody else to get ballots in.
So, when I worked at the Department of Ecology over the years, excuse me, I'm still getting over this lousy cold, which I hope none of you get. I had probably between 50 or 60, maybe 70 different interns that I invited to work with me on projects. And I can tell you, just about every one of them got a job after they worked with me because of the experience they got to see how it really works, how you do environmental policy, how you do regulation, how do you work with different entities like cities, ports, and tribes. And it was really fun. I mean, I really enjoyed, like, I'm old too, and it's really good for me to actually give as much knowledge and direction and help as I can to the younger people, because they're the ones that are actually going to be inheriting this world long past when we're gone. So I would like to see the port do the same kind of thing, have a program and make the port transparent, so we can bring in people actually of all ages, but in particular students that are coming out, as these two are right here, and get them involved in at least internships. And many of the internships I had, actually I was able to then get some funding and get them actually getting paid, which then led into jobs. And the great thing about it was that we had such a good program that the interns were always being stolen away from me by local government, by the tribes, by all these environmental groups out there, because they had this great experience. And so it's a good model, and it doesn't cost very much money at all. It's just basically putting the willpower and making it happen. And we can do that. So I'll turn it over to Barry.
Yeah, I think, I've been thinking about the issue you just brought up for quite a long time. I was on the Bellingham City Council back in 2007 through 2011, and one of the things I really noticed was the same thing that you're noticing, is that we have all this talent that graduates from our higher ed here in Whatcom County, and they all end up having to go down the road because there's no jobs for them here, just as you said. I always thought that it would be a good idea to be able to get business, economic development efforts like what the port does, and our students at the table together to understand what's available here, and how start having a discussion of how a lot of these programs that these kids are graduating from can benefit the economic development efforts here in Bellingham and Whatcom County. I often thought that the technology center, which is down at the port in the old GP warehouse in the front end of that, was a great place for that. For be able to have students come in and sit with business leaders and kind of have a liaison effect and talk about opportunities, and then create the internships in high tech, in environmental science, in all the kinds of things that our students are really proficient at, and then they're getting out, they're highly skilled, but again, they're going down the road. And a lot of them don't want to leave. They want to stay here. But, you know, we have to work to find a way to get opportunity presented to those kids coming out of school. It's great for them, it's great for the community, and it's great, you know, it's great for our economics. So.
Yeah, I agree with all the stuff that these guys are talking about, and I just wanted to add a couple of pieces. On, what day is it today? Friday. On Wednesday, we did have an opportunity to speak at Western. We were invited to come to Western Washington University, and we sat in a room, and I don't know, the room was, it was not a huge lecture hall, but it was a good sized lecture room, and it was full of students that really felt engaged. I also want to call out that we've got some graduates of Western who are working on our campaigns and are doing a heck of a job, who are going to be unemployed very soon. So I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, they're doing an incredible amount of work, and they're getting an incredible amount of experience that I hope looks great on a resume, and I hope that the connections that they're making through this campaign experience do help carry them forward in life. And then the third thing I wanted to bring up too is that another program that's just starting to be talked about at Western is a fellowship program with local nonprofit organizations. The Opportunity Council was approached to put their name on a list to host a Western student as not as a voting board member, because of various reasons for that, but to give students an opportunity to sit on a board of directors of a local nonprofit organization, and to have a member of that board mentor that student and work with them and give them the experience. I sit on a handful of boards of directors, and what gets mentioned often is, you know, oh, everybody, I got dirty looks when I said this yesterday, but that there's too many white-haired people in the room, and that there's not enough young people. And I find often with local community groups and nonprofits that people think that you have to have some great skill or have something fantastic to bring to the table, and what a lot of these nonprofit organizations need is people with energy and dedication and passion for community service. And I know that there are young people graduating from Western at Western now and in our trade schools, and that do have passion, and they do have great ideas, and this is their world. I'm, for one, very eager to help foster young people into the world and show them that it's not a scary place where they're always wrong or lazy or stupid or not wanted or not good enough, but that they're worthy, and that they're worthwhile, and furthermore that they are needed. They're so desperately needed. They've been educated under newer systems than many of us were educated, and they know so much. My son he was born in the year 2000, and he came home from, I think it was probably 3rd grade, and he said to me, he said, "Mom, you're an immigrant. I'm a native." And I was like, "What?" He said, "I was born with the internet. It's always been part of my life. You came to a place where the internet was, so you are an immigrant and I am a native." So I am really eager to foster these natives. And maybe they'll hook up my printer.
Hi, I'm Andrew Enterkin. My question stems from, I believe one of the port candidates mentioned fiber optics at the waterfront redevelopment site. My question to you, it's a two-part question. The first part is, at a policy level, how do you envision deployment of that fiber optic infrastructure? Do you feel one infrastructure and a monopoly in a way to serve that area, or will you in fact build the infrastructure and provide an open access platform for multiple providers? Market choice, consumer choice, and of course drives down the cost for your businesses looking to locate there. Actually, to all of the potential candidates here, what do you envision the board and the council here in the future to bring fiber optic connectivity to more rural areas of our community? What will you do to facilitate that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is cold as time to have this. Anyway, no, my vision is it's a publicly owned system, and it's open, so it's controlled by the public. It's net neutral, and it's available to all the businesses that would want to locate there. I think it's absolutely necessary to have that. We can't have one company controlling content and controlling basically everything else. It's got to be absolutely net neutral, open, and public. So, did I catch most of what you wanted? Okay.
Yeah, and, you know, I don't have much to add to that, but I agree. Mount Vernon has been doing really good, and they've been getting technology firms to relocate there. And it's partially because they have that connectivity and they have that you know, cost advantage to offer. We, in most of Whatcom County, we pay too much for too slow of service, and I'm fortunate to be in the city limits. I know if you're in the county, you're really hurting, and so it's, you know, if we want to have an economy of the future, we have to be able to have the tools to be successful, and a high-speed internet connection is key to that. So thanks for your question.
Yeah, and I agree with everything they said, especially, you know, about, you know, open access cannot be monopolized. But as far as Whatcom County in the rural parts, we have an obligation to provide that, because nowadays without the internet, it's like in my day, you didn't have your encyclopedias or a dictionary or anything that you could do any research in your home when you're doing your homework or whatever. The internet is such a valuable tool now. It's superseded anything I think that we ever thought it was going to be, due to its huge value. So it's so important that we don't isolate communities just because they are isolated. We have to make sure that they are connected. That's super important.
So every time I get up here last and say, I agree with everything that they say, I again agree. The Mount Baker Chamber of Commerce had a project, they worked in concert with the port to bring high-speed internet up the highway to Glacier. And one of the things that they kept running into, apart from just having no cooperation whatsoever with internet providers, I mean, phone calls were made and not returned and all of those things. They would figure out a way to get things going on, and they would work with the port at the time, and then the technology would change. So I guess my point is that I totally understand that it's an issue. There are people who, there are a lot of people who want to live in rural areas, and there's a lot of people who want to live in rural areas and they want to work from home, and they're going to need the internet to do that. And they're going to need cell service to do that. There's no cell service really at my house. I have to pay for a landline, which I won't do. So I had to buy a phone that works on Wi-Fi, and when my phone rings, I have to usually not pick it up because it's not connected. It doesn't automatically connect to the Wi-Fi, which means that when I pick it up, by the time Barry says, "Hi, Rebecca," my phone will drop that call. And that's, I mean, and that's real. And, you know, more and more people talk about the internet, and the internet of the internet as being a human right, and that kids need access to that. Kids need that for doing their homework assignments or for watching videos. And you know, there's a lot of future going on with young people through that medium, and we can't leave our young people behind, and we need people with high-paying jobs to have access to the internet so that they'll live in our rural areas and pay our property taxes.
To ask another one as well, and this gets at both the issue of internet and an issue that was raised earlier about solar panels. And that is, for instance, we'd love to have faster internet out here. It's the 4th largest community in the county. One of my personal dreams is that Sudden Valley become energy neutral. The community did not agree aspects of that would have been to have solar panels on all of our roofing. And the issue for both of those is finances. The community, in refusing a particular proposal, said basically we can't afford it. So how can rural areas or semi-rural areas like we are, because we're really kind of off the beaten path, you had to drive to get here, you know what I mean. How can those things be brought here when the continual issue is funding? The local folks may not have it, especially further out in the county. You know what I'm talking about. And government doesn't seem to have it. There's tons of other priorities that face you guys. Are you going to build a jail? How are you going to repair the county office buildings? On and on and on. What are your ideas for making sure things actually get done despite a lack of funds?
I'll take a stab at it. Because that's a question that has very few answers as far as where do we find the dollars. I think consolidation of services, if you can do it, if you can, for instance, build a community solar center, and if you have a spot out here that's got lots of sun for Sudden Valley, and you could make some sort of a very localized utility that you guys could pool your resources and build one system rather than hundreds of all the houses. That's one idea. When I was in California, I worked for Lockheed for 10 years I was in the Navy, and then we got out of the Navy and we moved back home. But while I was in Fremont, California, we bought a solar hot water system that was very new. It was in the 80s. They had these tanks and reflectors underneath them. But at that time, you got an 85% off your taxes on the bottom line. I mean, if you owed $100 on your taxes, you got 85% of that cut off, and you only owed 15. It was an incredible program. So unfortunately, we've seen a lot of those grants go away. But the legislature has been trying to get some solar policy developed in Olympia that they just haven't got enough traction. And so I would encourage you to talk to your local state legislators in moving that kind of policies forward in Olympia. And that kind of helps everybody, because they have the ability to probably get their hooks into more grants than we do at the county level. But if we work together, and we work with a community like Sudden Valley that would think about doing some kind of a centralized utility, I think we could make a lot more progress. At least we could sit down and all, have the same goals, same understanding of what the outcomes we want are, and just kick around ideas and see what we can come up with.
And to that, I'd like to add, we talked too about that, about having a solar co-op, and I think that's a really, really great opportunity for groups to get together and to co-op sustainable infrastructure like that. And I think that the port is going to have a lot to offer in that venue. But the piece that I wanted to add is, we're all like super uncertain about the whole federal situation right now. But I was just recently endorsed by Congresswoman Susan Delbene, and she's doing some incredible stuff at the federal level, holding on tooth and nail to really important funding. And I think that's, I think from a county level, I don't know that that's gonna be where the money shakes out. But I think that at the federal level, I think that's where we're going to see it. There's a gentleman in my neighborhood who is active in the water district, and there's some issues with their lighting district and issues with people not paying their water bills and so on and so forth. And he connected with Congresswoman Delbene's office, and it was just ushered like a whole file folder of USDA grants and loan programs for the individuals, but for the water district to service those individuals. I mean, I think it's easy to get caught up in the complete shenanigans that are happening in the White House and lose sight of the fact that there are really, really good people that we've elected at the federal level who are fighting hard for us. And I think if we reach out and we ask them for help, they'll be there to help us.
Getting too old. I can't sit down too long. They start to set up like concrete. It really should be a collaborative effort between all the governments, basically, the port in particular, but also the county and the cities. Because I was actually kind of shocked. We had kind of an orientation of port commissioners down at the port, and we found out that the existing port commissioners, they go to an annual meeting with all the port districts, and they actually are supposed to bring proposals for things that they need funded. Our port commissioners never bring anything to get funded. They don't even ask. Now that's something I would definitely change. The other thing is, you need to have people in office that actually will pursue these types of funding, because there is funding, but you've got to go ask for it. You've got to make a good case. And when you've got the combined approvals, basically, of the county, a city, and a port, that's very impressive to people in the funding areas. So I think, for rural areas in particular, we definitely should be thinking about, hey, if we're putting in a new electric line that's going underground or something, we should definitely be putting at least a conduit in there so we can run fiber optic out. Right now, the port needs to put conduits underneath the railroad from downtown to be able to bring in things like actually water, sewer, but also fiber optic and all the communication stuff. So that's really critical to get those things in. That's a small amount of money. It's like $50,000. But if you can't get under the railroad, you're not going to have anything. So, you got to take these step at a time. And it's, it costs money. If you spread that cost over a wider area and over a number of years, you can actually make it work. So that's something we have to look at as a collective, larger community. It may mean we have to spend a few more dollars in our taxes, but to get that for the future, for yourselves and your businesses and your kids, I think that's a good investment. So, but it needs to be a transparent, open, honest discussion.
I've got those solar panels on my house. We make 95% of our power for the year. And Washington State, I got to correct one thing Barry said. The Olympia did pass the solar jobs bill this year, and so they renewed for another 8 years of funding that benefits both individual homeowners, businesses, and there are some allocations for government to work in that solar funding package. We spent $30,000 on our solar installation. We got a loan for it, and we were going to have it paid off in 4.5 years. That's the rebates from the state that pays you an incentive. And so, the port, for example, the port wants to, the fishermen have been asking for this fisherman's pavilion for years. And it's something that they need to be able to make their operations work, to dry their nets, to be able to have functions. We've got the space for it. We just need to be able to fund it. Well, if we combine it with an investment in solar panels, we cover the whole roof with panels. All of a sudden, we've got a revenue stream attached to this, and we've got a real nice funding package to work from. And so these are I think of these are ways that we can put projects from our wish list onto our do list and make them happen.
Just want to point out, when you go down to the port, gee, there's no trees. Putting shade over there, it's a perfect place for solar. Oh, there's acres and acres of roof. So.
Okay. It's about time now we wrap up and let these guys give a little conclusion, and then if you want to talk with them afterwards, they'll be around. So why don't we start at this end and go back, since we started at that end going this way.
This is going to be short because my voice is really down to the end. But anyway, I think you've seen, you've actually got some really great candidates here for the community. And that's been a real pleasure for me to get to know them all. I really think our community can do some absolutely amazing stuff in the upcoming years, and I really want to be a part of that. We have so many smart people here. When you go doorbelling, it's the one thing I really enjoy about doorbelling is that you meet people that they're retired, they're physicists, they're doctors, they've worked in all kinds of businesses, they've got great ideas, and it's fun to have that dialogue back and forth. And that's what we need down there in the port in particular, but also at all different levels of government. You gotta have people committed and engaged, because it's what we make of our place here is what we're going to have the rest of our lives and our kids' lives and our grandkids' lives. You know, I really believe, and I've done this all my career, a good economic driver in the right kind of jobs, coupled with to be able to do environmental restoration. So when you're doing a cleanup, you think about how you're going to redo that bank so it's actually going to be real productive for marine fisheries, for salmon, for like the log pond. The log pond's a great example. It's got clean sand on the bottom. We went in and planted eelgrass where there was no eelgrass. It's got a beautiful eelgrass bed. And after that eelgrass was planted, there were young Chinook salmon in there within hours. I mean, they were just like a magnet to that thing. Same thing with the crab and everything else. We can restore an awful lot of that committee for the Bellingham Bay demonstration project. And it doesn't cost that much. It costs about the same as doing it if you don't do it right, you know. If you put in something like at the Marine Park down there, I was on the design and funding and permitting for Marine Park in Fairhaven. That used to be these big old chunks of concrete that when they had the ski race that no one could climb over it, so they'd come down every year and dump sand on it so people could actually climb up the thing. We took all that out, reshaped it, put it in the gravel size that actually absorbs waves. And so now it's a natural beach, basically, from this really cruddy thing before. We can do that all over the bay. And there's plans. I worked with all these people for many decades. And so, I'm talking way too much, but I'm excited about this. And I think we can really collectively do a lot of good stuff for the next couple of years. Thanks.
Thank you again, and this is the last forum of our campaign season, so it's nice we're wrapping it up the process, and we just really want to encourage people to make sure they're getting out and voting. And what I really enjoy hearing from all the candidates that I get to see up here, share the stage, is that there's a lot of vision for what we want to do and where we want to go, and I think that's critical. We all hold endorsements from a ridiculous number of combined organizations that represent thousands and thousands of working people here in Whatcom County, and we're excited to keep leveraging that support and continue working all the way to Election Day. I'm going to be out doorbelling every day until Election Day, and we would love to have anybody's help to encourage your friends and neighbors and family to vote too. Thank you.
Well, Michael stole my opening line, which was tonight is our last forum. But I want to just touch on a little bit about what both of them talked about. And I think that's the camaraderie that we've established with each other, all of us together, and how we can work together. This is my 6th campaign in my lifetime. And I've never seen, in 2013, you may have remembered that was the big coal train year, and there was 4 of us running. That was a great team. But this team communicates this way a lot more, and the team last time kind of communicated this way, you know. So there was a lot of camaraderie, but I think we understand each other's role better than what we did in 2013. So I'm really excited to be able to work with these folks on the port and with Rebecca coming onto the council. That's going to be awesome. It is the last forum, but you know what? It was kind of the most fun because I think your questions were great. They are second, though, to one forum I did this week, and that was out at Ferndale in Vista Middle School. And I talked to 2 7th grade classes, social studies classes, and they were incredible. The amount of things that they knew about our community was mind-boggling. And I had to tell them, I says, you guys, you're future office holders out here. So I hope I can get your vote. I've got a lot of experience. I've been on like I said, the Bellingham City Council. I've been on the Whatcom County Council. I've worked on very large projects. I worked on the Hubble Space Telescope I worked on the Trident submarine systems. I've worked on many space shuttle programs during the space shuttle when I was at Lockheed. So got a lot of problem solving experience. Hope you guys get out to vote. That's what's important now. Tell your friends and neighbors and family members that it's critical. We need to be able to have a firewall at the local level between some of the stuff we're seeing happening back in DC. We have to have people pull together locally and say, enough is enough. We're going to protect our community, and we're not going to be bullied around by the White House. So again, I hope I can get your vote. I'm Barry Buchanan and running for Whatcom County Council at large.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity, and thanks for coming and being here. It takes an incredible amount of effort to run for public office, and I just want to take just a quick moment to say thank you to you, Barry, for being an inspiration to me. I mean, I didn't know you very well, and every time I hear you speak, you say something else, and I'm like, dude, that guy is the smartest guy I've ever heard. And you know, just really down to earth and easygoing, and I really hope you get over the cold. I got over mine. You probably will get over my cold too, because of the camaraderie. Michael Shepard is, I think, you know, it's hard. When I first started running, like, I was nervous, I was scared, and I don't think Michael has flinched once. I've been inspired watching you and your socks and your dazzle, and you know, I don't like to talk about my opponent, but sometimes people say that my opponent is too slick, and I think that there's a big comparison when you compare it to somebody like Michael, who is very well spoken, whose heart is really in the right place. You don't come off as too slick, you come off as just right, and I'm really pleased to be running with you. And Barry, I've been since we met for coffee, on the county council, and I've been really impressed by you. I appreciate the time that you have met with me, not only as I was debating whether I was really going to do this or not, but you know, when we had issues with the council and as a community, Barry would always take my calls, Barry would always return my emails, and we would drink coffee, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate you guys again for being here tonight, and thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much again for spending some time with us, and talk with folks after the end, and have a great evening and a great weekend.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good to meet you.
Yeah,
Good
really
to meet you.